Hello, hello. We had a glitch. Can you all hear me okay? Just let me know if you can hear me all right. Good. I'm a little slow with this live thing. We have fought and fought and fought all day long working on getting the Sony camera set up instead of my laptop camera because it's so poor. And we've been trying to connect this handy dandy video capture and programs, and it's just, I'm so glad to see you all. So hello to everybody. I see we have, and we're just kind of relaxing into this Saturday evening. It's been a hectic day. We've got time. I see Rue. I see Mercedes. I see Kathleen. Miss Ona. Becky. And unfortunately, I have to look this way to see the chat. Sorry, it feels rude. Wade, Renee, Fred, hello. Typical Watch, hello. Bigfoot Mama. Richard, Retired Copper, hi. Miss Mandy, Denise, good group. Thank you, Marty, Susan. I think I hit the bottom. Okay, good. So the first live didn't go too badly. We peaked out at just short of 200 at one point. And Nina, I'm sorry, Dawn, Stacy, a few names I haven't gotten here. Alice, Vicky. It must be loading a little slow. If I haven't said hello, please forgive me. Yeah, the first one didn't go too badly. It was actually more people than I anticipated. And I thank you all for those of you that were here. What I found out is that it's really hard for me to be in two worlds at one time. And I felt a little slow coming back in between. Rico, Sydney, saw a couple other names. Ohio Bigfoot, Luann, David, Jean. Wonderful to have you. So I thought tonight we can handle a few questions. I want to apologize to anybody that might have been here and had a question, didn't get it answered. I've actually gone through and I started writing down all the questions that I haven't approached, and I will. We have time to hit them. We have time to ask again if we have to. I figured out a long time ago I needed to be able to cut myself into about 3 pieces with the different kinds of work that I do. So I'm learning the hard way, as always, as to how to best manage these things and try to keep it fair and balanced for everybody. So we've had a big week. I don't know how many of you might have had the opportunity to watch the EVP video we did last, but the people were all over it, and Sobe especially, and I thank them for their participation. Sobe particularly was very concerned about Ken's hand, as much healing as he has done with the Ormus, there's just a places, I should say, and he would be better to tell you, but where that nerve isn't quite exact, and in the cold particularly, it seems like it really wants to give him a bad time. So Babe literally had said, and I actually have more than half a dozen pages printed off of that EVP. Thank you, Becky. Hello, Shirley. Good to have you. Isn't it a good thing we don't have to get across these ponds to visit with each other? That is one good thing about the internet. There was one part that I thought was really interesting, and they were speaking in relationship to a gold scope. And what I found, our version of that is called a gold probe. And it uses super magnification in microscoping to see skin, cells, the membranes, everything. And it also detects electricity. So for nerves, it would detect whether there's a lack of electricity going through properly. And I thought it was interesting because I wondered how it was that they had access to the same type of thing, perhaps. I'm just wheeling this back up here. And I want to say you guys all rock. I absolutely love you all. And so many of you I've had the opportunity to speak to personally in my heart. Maybe I bond too easily. But it's been very nice to have you in that personal space and to build a trusting relationship. And you're all my family. Thank you, Mercedes. What are we going to learn today, Mercedes? What would you guys like to learn about? Do you have any questions about that last video? It was really hard to put the text boxes in there. We did not try to put words in their mouth as much as possible. Hi, Jeff. Thank you, Renee. I love my rocks, my crystals. Hi, Jan. Tommy. Edery, I see you all. Thank you. You know, more and more I've learned that, yeah, the orb, and I wasn't quick enough to coordinate putting photographs together for this, and I apologize. But I have one shot of the orb right, in its biggest place. When you first look at it, it looks like a normal light orb. And I think it was Degenerati had asked how it was that it was going outside of the picture box. And I'm not going to lie to you, I don't even know. Because to look at the orb, it looks external from the camera. But then it shouldn't go into the hood, because that black line above the picture is the hood for the lens. It doesn't seem to me it should go into that unless it's reflection. But it just was all the way up into it. And then that was that. But when the picture's enlarged, the first layer, the first thing that you see is that bright light. And the next layer, when you enlarge it a little more, what I saw or what it looked like to me were waves. And literally looking at it looked like a thumbprint. So maybe they're just waves, and maybe these waves somehow affect our visual when we see the people in video or in pictures or things like this, and sometimes they look blurry. I can't help but wonder if it's not the waves. And Anku, when I asked him about this, because it really perplexed me, he said it was the veil that we were seeing, but it was the light that enabled it, because it was really only in that light that I could see this. Yeah, at least it didn't zap us. But it was only in that light that I could see the makeup of it. So it went from looking almost like a fingerprint or a thumbprint, wavy, to when you got it into the next enlargement, it was grid-like. And it almost looked like nylon or netting or something like this, but they were perfect squares, perfect grid that it was made up of. And yeah, Ken. Hi, Ken. Well, Ken, you're moderating. You don't know that, but and Jean, I have to agree that they have technology to use that we just can't even conceive of. And I think it's hard to interpret them as extraterrestrial. I have this thing about alien. Maybe it's too many bad movies growing up. Of course, they're always made to look like the bad guy. And they are so interdimensional. But, dimensionally, it's worlds within worlds. And so there's nothing to say that their world does not include higher levels of technology. And I believe their understanding for it is likely what they are using to help us keep from destroying ourselves, keep us from, mishandling all these toys that we have in the toy box right now. Because I feel civilizations have destroyed themselves with technology that doesn't have the consciousness to go behind it. Multitasking, Renee. She's saying, how can I read and answer questions? So I believe we were given a glimpse, for those of us with eyes to see, we were given a glimpse of the veil. And I believe Anku, when I asked him about it, it kind of felt like him saying there's so many that don't even believe there is a veil. So many that still can't comprehend layers or how dimensions are separated by this fabric, by this energy. So it's important, I feel at this stage in the game for us to get our brains wrapped around it. If we don't understand it, we need to figure out what do we need in order to understand it. And if I'm able to help, if you guys have ideas, we've presented things on quantum, we've presented things, I should say they, because it's usually them helping us think about what we need to present.
I hate to interrupt, but go ahead and pull that bar off of the screen because it's just blocking the view.
Up. One second here. I'm just highlighting everybody. See, you don't want me in technology. There. Okay. So, back to the thought, we need to figure out what it's going to take for us to step up, what it's going to take for us to get it, to kind of break out of our molds. A lot of us I've had a few individuals since Christmas that have really struggled to with this transition of energy, with this shift in energy. And it's a real calling out. It's a real, Anku says, really now is the time for us to accept, to own. He's showing me own who we are. The problem is that it's not mapped out. The problem is that it's, we're kind of feeling around in the dark and maneuvering to our next move, our next move, our next move. And hopefully we have a few strong people around us that can help us gauge those moves, those actions. And yeah. Hey, SoCal. Kevin. Does anybody have maybe a broad question? Carol Sue, good to see you. And that's the other thing that the people were trying to express this last week with the EVP walk that we did. Anku was really explaining that the other thing that was being shown in that orb is how transparent it's become between dimensions, between those layers. More and more of us are seeing more and more. There was even, in the second half, almost all of it was EVP that was not the people except for one section that I recall. And they were making comment about how our subs, some could see. And I think the way that they had said it was some were good. Some, in other words, some of us were really beginning to see them. And others, still developing. And I think they were trying to gauge that as we were doing the walk to see just what form or what placement they needed in order not to be inappropriate. Is the word I'm being given. Hi, Jeremy. has Anku mentioned or aware? You know, he hasn't specifically mentioned Neftia. Um, but to be fair, I haven't specifically asked him. He does, yeah, he does recognize Neftia. Um, Neff was the way shower for a lot of people. Um, well, Sasquatch, Ontario was the way shower for a lot of people as to the personality and the caringness of the people. And I truly appreciate his work. I haven't watched all of his stuff. Uh, let's see. So I'm going to try, Blue, to do this as briefly as I can. Excuse me. Um, I just lost it. Well, it won't let me post. So the question is if they know what's causing people to go missing from national parks, etc. Anku has um, Anku, there you are. 411 Anku. He gives me the strongest sense that the majority of them are ultra dimensional beings, not inter, ultra. So I feel like the portals or the gateways that these people are near or exposed to are um, able to be used by a variety of energies. He mentions elementals, that there are some cases, not all, but some that are they're a form of an elemental energy and they're using an electromagnetic band or wave. Perhaps with these national parks, it has to do with the geology, the makeup of the minerals, the um, there's a lot in this. Some are what we would call malevolence that are they're I'll tell you what they're trying to do. What he tells me they're trying to do is they are when people are at these places where they can get them safely for them. Uh, I didn't say that right. When they're able to obtain them without being seen, without being known. Many of these energies, he said, do not have our, okay, Give me the easy way to explain this, Anku. Many of these energies that are doing this do not have the components that our DNA has. For a number of years, they have known that it is our components that are going to enable us to move forward in this shift. He mentions God consciousness. He mentions our connection to Source. And it feels like what they're trying to do is figure out how they can integrate our DNA in such a way that they will not cease to exist, that they will not it's like they're hoping to somehow obtain the light, the seed that's within us, and somehow bond it with them as they are, and that maybe they can figure out a way to continue. It just has this feeling that they will cease to exist when the world does change, unless they have Source as a part of their makeup. Oh, that's hard to explain what I'm. Yeah, we may get into that more. But it just feels like an integration that they're trying to somehow. I don't know that they're trying to become us, but there is this sense that they are trying to figure out a way to manipulate all of that in order to continue on. Okay, let's see. Hi, Lily. You know, they're really not afraid of anything. Or I haven't picked up on anything that they're afraid of. They're hesitant towards certain things, or give pause around certain things, especially if there's young involved. But it's not the sense of fear that we would associate it with. Let's see. Could Anku say anything about a time when we humans had a good relationship with them? Any tips for showing respect to them now? It really isn't that far removed from us. He mentions tribes and specifically Native Americans or tribal people, not just Native Americans, but that there have been a number of cultures that they have worked with, in that those cultures had a natural understanding for nature, the creator, you know, astronomy, and all of the elements. The directions, he mentions the directions, so I'm guessing north, south, east, west, and what those represent. They've had a more natural way of tapping into the collective consciousness or even the Akashic records by proxy of their being, by proxy of their practices. And he said that there are many, many tribes that they have worked with and for and have helped and have been helped by. So I would say that the respect is always in, asking permission and being courteous, please, thank you, and meaning it. They're not a hard people to please. Um, they don't require a lot. I think we as humans have gotten spoiled with choice and spoiled with stuff, and their perspective is different in that they don't look at things as important, of course. Uh, they hold more value in a flower than some people do their own vehicles, that respect for life that they have. And Anku is saying that if you would like to learn, pay homage, like he's showing me, pay homage or respect to anything that has life. And when we can appreciate that, and we can truly start to feel appreciation for it, um, we'll be getting closer and closer to being to meeting in the middle, as he had spoken of before. Um, let's see. Fairest one of all, I'm reading here. I have a theory on how the universe may be structured. Everything is frequency and harmonics, where light is nothing but frequency in the form of sine wave as well as sound waves. It is, and it was all created through sound, which is why it's so important for us to guard our words, because every word that comes out of our mouth holds a vibration. And we are constantly creating, and some people create very carelessly. Yeah. Hi, Pamela, Linda. Sunbows. Whoops. I just lost the comment. Hey, Diana. Sue. Well, try and get caught up. So, John, I'm reading your question. When I met the people, I spent a lot of time focusing and praying on it. But one of the things that came to mind, and it's important to realize, is that I've had some say, well, they're malevolent, or how do you know they're not evil, or in the energies I've worked with, a malevolent or an evil energy, negative energy that has ever practiced, much less instructed us to love, toward light, to respect the Creator, to pay homage to the Creator for life. The Father tells me it's no different than discerning a person. And I have probably met fewer people that have consistently held the course and never wavered on that message of the oneness, of the all, of the magnificence of light and love and the healing. And so there is no part of me that has picked up on anything derogatory or negative or malevolent, or by way of discerning the spirit of these people. And I would have to say they have soul, because they have consciousness. They feel bad if something, if someone is ill, or there was that point where we were being protected from an orb from Anku, and he thought that, his energy could have affected us or made us ill somehow. And even if it did, he was doing it out of protection. So how can you judge that as a bad or a wrong move? If a mother is standing on a curb and she has her child standing there and getting ready to run out into the street, she grabs that child. Is she doing it out of fear, or is she doing it out of love? Sometimes we have to discern that they are the same. And that ultimately, if it's for the highest good, it is for the best. Could I prove to anybody that they're good? No, not any more than what we do. But I have yet to find a wrong in what they concern themselves with. Even Sobey was worried about healing Ken's hand. He hadn't, well, other than maybe a little food he was saying that he liked, there was really no request for that. And he was insistent, that maybe he could be implemental in healing. So it is interesting, and there's a lot to learn. Let's see. I know y'all have some good stuff. One second, sorry. So many people. Hello to everybody I haven't spoken to yet. I'm sorry. Elizabeth, Anku is exceptionally patient. And there are times that I have felt him, I think during that last live session when the subject of the Creator came up and how minimalizing we are to the energy of the Creator. I could feel this coming up in him. And it was a sense of, you just really have no idea. And he's probably right. He's probably right, because we have been so walled in, boxed in, blinders on. And at the very least, in our feeling centers, we often only feel what's close to us. So to feel the expansiveness of something like the Creator is overwhelming. It's almost, I don't want to say impossible, because many do. But he was very steadfast in that. Steadfast in, if we could really, really understand that the Creator is in everything, even in the space between, in the space of nothing, as we would call it. If we could begin to really feel that and understand that, it would take the limited view, the limitedness of who we are, and kind of blow it out of the water. Because once you feel that, once you grasp it, there's really no going back to not knowing it. And I think a lot of his efforts this last year have been in working to get us back in that sovereign relationship with Source, with ourselves, and forgetting all of these paradigms and all these made up modules of who we are or who we're supposed to be, how we look, what we drive, what job we have. Because, the universe isn't looking at it as more or less important than the guy on the street. And something that came to me not very long ago was, everybody's born with different portions of love. Maybe the fellow on the street was only born with one portion and had a number of events happen in his life as a child. And it may have taken him everything he had to use that one portion, to forgive, to, stay on the high road when maybe crime would have been easier or hate would have been easier. And in that, I feel that when we use what we're given, it's doubled again. But then we have someone else on the better side of town that was born with buckets of love around them, all the support they needed, all the revenue they needed, the best schools, a good sound church to go to maybe when they were young, or, good groups to be a part of. And they don't use a third of it. So our judgments, there's so much that we don't know, that we all need to put ourselves in check. And I have to keep myself in check. I am as human as the day is long. And try to remember that, it's not our job to decide where they are in their path, if they need our help, to be there. But it's not our job to judge them and decide who they are, because really, only Source knows that. Only Source knows what they've been through or what they had when they were born versus the next guy. So my goal is to use every portion that I've been given, hopefully, that it can just be built on, doubled, tripled, whatever it is. Linda, I am not sure. Sun, Bows, Camus. Is that the name of a person, an individual? Camus? Do the people have problems with ticks? Chiggers? Not really. And what it is they know how to, the electricity that's in our body, kind of trying to think of a good way to explain it. If we actually were in tune with ourselves and understood how to use every facet of ourselves, literally the electricity in our body would be a repellent to mosquitoes, ticks, and so on. We haven't advanced enough to know how to do that. But in a conversation we were having this summer on Coup, I thought, how can you guys not have a problem with this? Because we were fighting with it a little bit. And he said, raise the electricity in your body. I mean, it was just so cut and dry to him. I thought, okay, sorry. Let's see. So back to you, Elizabeth. He doesn't really have any personal messages for other channels specifically. There are some that really ride on the wave of fear and focus on the scary stuff because it sells. He would love to see that pass, but back into that no judgment zone, I feel like he just leans away from it. He doesn't, I don't feel him judging it. I feel him just, I'm sorry that that's all they want out of us. I'm sorry that that's all they'll ever see out of us. But it's not going to change what he's doing or what the family's doing or these, especially the type ones. They're just going to keep on trucking. And eventually the fear side will have to fall away. Because I feel like at some point there's going to be no dispute as to the strength and the good of the people, at least the type ones, which are actually the majority. Orbs, we've had all different colors. There were several orbs in that last video. Some were really tiny. I had one that was kind of turquoise colored over my head for a few minutes. There was another one that came up from the bottom that was kind of orange. Most of the time Anku's energy is, to the naked eye, looks very orange or kind of a yellow orange, gold. But when it's enlarged, it's very white. So I haven't done it yet on the small ones, but I'm curious that if I screenshot them and enlarge them, if they would also change color. They're energetically, they just, a lot of times when we're seeing those orbs, there's one video, I believe it's called The Orb Path. And he explains that it's kind of their essence. So he's telling me that color is important. The gold is a part of that for him is position. The white is the core, but yellow and gold is about knowledge or about information and sharing that. The blue, whoever was using that blue, and it could have been Sobe that day, it's about healing. Greens and blues, he said, are about healing. The orange is usually about one that's more creative or has a little more spark to them that way. So that could have easily been one of the young ones or junior, as they're always thinking of things as creatively as they can. And it seems like they're always trying not to break the rules. Let's see. Hi, Mark. Dogman. Dogman is another dimensional energy. He hates to talk about Dogman. He's like, are you sure we have to talk about Dogman? He's showing me realms beneath. So I feel like, and I hear the word manipulation, so I believe that there have been some components of manipulation to create a type of Dogman. Uh, the other Dogman that he refers to, or what he would call natural, he shows me it feels very underground or a low level realm. And it just, I think there are certain places that these types of cryptids can enter into the 3D realm, into our world. If they happenstance upon them, I don't think they belong here. And I think, we were talking about 411, and it feels like sometimes doors and gates get left open. And certain energies kind of sneak through them, which is part of the job of the Sasquatch, is to guard and protect gates and portals to other realms and dimensions, because this is what happens when the doors get left open on Kusas. It's not good, and they don't like Dogman. They're not afraid of them, but they do not like them. So I won't make him talk about that anymore right now. I hope that made sense. It was probably a little more information than I thought he was going to. UV light. I would like to run an experiment with UV light, because they had expressed how the sun, how they were dependent on the sun. And, their hair is so reflective, though. I don't know what the UV effect is on it. Ken, are you still in there? Any thoughts on that UV? And thank you, John. Anyway, it would be interesting, and part of that, there was a short part of EVP that we had gotten, and I think they were talking between themselves, but at one point they had said, check the powerful, go gold, confirm. You should check dark too. And when I heard that EVP, or got that, I asked Anku, I said, what in the world are they even talking about? He said, don't make it so hard. Don't make it too complicated, because basically to say check the powerful, go gold, confirm is it's saying check the sunlight. And when they said go gold, confirm, they're just saying sounds good. And you should check the dark too. Check the shade, check the shadow, and see what the effect is, because it very much impacts what we can see and how they can work and move and do what they need to do. But it sounds so complex, and their verbiage is a little thick. So it's always fascinating if they say aid. A lot of times they'll tell us no aid, which means no camera. But they can turn around and say the same thing and talk about aiding kin with his hand. So words have more than one meaning. They're a lot of times they'll say accept me, and what that's saying is basically, do you accept? If I think Sobe at one point was saying, we should hope that you have a sit. If not appropriate or suited, you're there. In other words, if it was appropriate for us to sit with him, they were hoping that we would. So some of it's kind of backward. Like I said, it's not quite Yoda, but and then he said, accept me. In other words, would you be willing to accept my help? Would you be willing to sit with me? And it's just, once you know what the words mean, it becomes easier. Let's see. Fairest one of all, there is on the playlist. I think Anku talked about it. It would be in the playlist called The People, and it was the third one that we did. He was walking us through the process of what they do, or what happens, at least with the type 1s, when they transition, as they call it. They don't bury them. They do pass on to another realm, and the family gathers together and they help them with that. But if you're interested in seeing that, it might give you more Val, can Anku define the dark entities that are making their way through the veil? And I'm fine, thank you. There are several. He said it really... He's mentioning something about... I started to say dragons, but then I realized it sounds like Dracon or Dracon. But he just gives me the impression that a lot of the darker or more malevolent energies are associated with ancient dark energies. He said what you need to know more than who, because there are so many beings interdimensionally. He said more important is for you to understand that part of what's going on appears to be just a minute. It feels like every attempt to keep us from evolving, to keep us from transforming, he said. So it's almost a sense of extra energies. There again, I'm getting this timeline thing, and they're working feverishly to keep us down, to keep us as we've been, controllable. And he said fooled by darkness. He's he seems to insinuate that a lot of them are also manipulators of energy, and I get the sense that they have a means or a way of either holographically or through manipulations of the minds, creating um, scenarios, or he says scenes, like we would be witnessing something maybe on TV or something like this, not necessarily firsthand. But what it is to try to keep that group consciousness down, to try to get everybody feeding that fear vibe. And um, it's he's just saying it's up to you to decide. Is it the truth? Is it the truth? You know, um, to feel it, to ask the right questions. And if everything inside of you says something doesn't feel right, go with that, walk away from it, don't participate in it. Because what it's doing is it's building this vibration that these other energies can live on, feed on, thrive on, he said. And each of us holds our own accountability in that. Excuse me. Val, just to finish that thought, he's saying a lot of these energies have been present for, I get eons of time. And they haven't changed a bit. They have utilized the same energy to survive. Um, I'm trying to see if I can even get a year, because it's been going on almost since the beginning. And it's just an attempt to try to put a hat, because I see a hat, to try to put a hat on this evolutionary. He said, you guys are just, as a species, are so close to coming out of this enslavement, to coming out of these definitions of who you are. And you're beginning one by one, he said, to realize who you are. And it's like I can just feel him just excited and, just like keep going, keep going, keep going. Don't let these energies play you. Um, just reading for a second, sorry. I was reading Nina. I hope it's Nina, not Nina. Being they were here before us, and they did not sin against God, were they commanded to keep a distance so as not to influence our lives or their lives and turn them to sin. Well, the type 3s have been influenced. And Anku has shown that a lot of that influence beyond birth defect or incestuous makings, a lot of that influence is what he considers a lower vibrational energy. He's so careful about judging. But that it has affected their energy, the aggressiveness, the anger, the fear. He said, really, they're no different than people. These things affect your energy field. They affect your mind. He's doing this like, and the type 3s have been affected energetically also. And it's almost like a disease to them, because it's not the natural nature of them. It's not, and he said, and it's not your natural nature either to be ill, to be afraid, to be, all of these things. You think it's your natural nature, but he said your natural nature is to be free and expressive and loving and kind and compassionate. And he's just going on and on and on. That's your true nature. Scroll down, scroll down. Guys are getting ahead of me. I'm talking too much. Deer crossing the street. Was that the people? Well, on that one, Elizabeth, he said that one wasn't the people. Degenerati, hello. Venomous snakes. Let's ask. That's a good question. Okay, Anku. Do venomous snakes hurt your people? I'm kind of getting really slow. A very slow, yes, like some of the people might have a susceptibility to them, particularly the young. Yes, particularly the young. So he's bringing me back to what Mama was speaking about with poultices. I need to find out what it is, but it feels like they either pull out, suck out, much like we might do in first aid, venom, or that they know of something that draws it naturally. It doesn't affect them quite the same as people. Okay. Doesn't. Okay. It would be like a bumblebee sting or a little worse for us, or maybe a bad spider bite. But their system and something having to do with their metabolism, it doesn't affect them the same way. How do they punish their own people that get too out of hand? Well, the type 1s really don't have. So if I ask Anku, do you have to punish your own people? The type 1s really don't have difficulty like, say, type 3s or something like this. They don't. Have you had to kill your own? Mm-mm. There's a real. You're asking about if they're afraid of anything. There is this sense, particularly with the type 1s, where they have no desire to go against the rules that have been set before them. it feels like it's a real, the position they're in is a privilege, and it feels like in that collective they don't want to, would not do anything to truly risk um, their assignment. It's their assignment. It's not. Instead, type threes are separate and aside from, and the type ones really don't deal with the type threes. Um, I just don't see that there's need to have to do more than reprimand. And even that feels like it falls to the younger ones. Um, in prior EVPs that we've had, I know there was one where Took was kind of being sassy with Davi. Davi is Anku's oldest. But Davi had pretty much told him in so many words, let's see, that it wasn't allowed. And he just told him, he said, pick the boring answer. In other words, Took must have been trying to over elaborate or be a little dramatic or something like this, or that was the sense that I got. And Davi just said, pick the boring answer, like, yes, sir. And it didn't feel like Took needed to be told again. It just feels like, once you're told, you're told. You'll get that one by card, but don't push me. It was the feeling. Piper Getty, why don't they just come out and meet us? Well, Anku has shown that there is a certain timing involved in this. And prior to when that point comes, it's kind of this knowing that they're going to have within themselves or through the powers that be, that we have reached this place of where it's safe. I don't know how long that's going to be, and I don't know how many people have to be in that a certain vibration or a certain point in their own ascension in order to be able to witness that. Because a lot of people, honestly, Anku says a lot of people think they're okay with it, feel they're okay with it. But if they had that experience, either A, they would possibly be unintentionally irresponsible in who they shared it with, and not all of the, he's saying not all of these facets or groups are for the people the way that they would say they are for the people. So could that be an experience that wasn't broadcasted? Could that be an experience that was held sacred? He said right now man has difficulty with understanding what's sacred and what's meant to be shared. So it feels like the day is coming. It is not the masses yet that could have that experience and hold it close to their heart or hold it to themselves and keep it sacred. So it isn't that they don't want to, it's that man hasn't found a way yet that they wouldn't either A, try to capitalize on it, or B, share it with the wrong people, and then maybe they're, to create unsafe uh, measures for them. It just feels like there's a lot involved in that. And of course, they have to make sure that we are past the point of potentially being scared to death or going through a fear trauma in it. Um, so he just says some think they're ready, they're not quite there, they're almost there. But when they can feel or they see signs that people can hold those relationships or hold those experiences in a sacred place versus the media versus, you know, Facebook. He's just mentioning like social media and all these things, television. He said that it's man's instinct right now to want to share something that big. So until it becomes small enough that it doesn't feel like it has to be broadcast in a way that could be dangerous for them, they have to be very careful. Um, okay. Trying to see. I don't want to skip any questions, but I know last time I missed a lot of people. Um, I love your comments. Thank you, Becky. I'm slow. You're right. mm. Do they see our departed ones in heaven? Mm. So I'm curious, kind of relaying that um, there are in those realms, in those levels of heaven, um, there are some that they can see or um, seem to have some awareness of. It doesn't feel like they put their focus into that so much, but they have, or even dimensionally. Uh, Sometimes it feels like they catch sight of each other in these realms. Um, hey, Butch. How do they feel about dogs? They actually like dogs, um, for the most part. Or at least these guys seem to. Um, they, yeah, I don't feel like they really have an issue with any animal specifically. Um, at least the type 1s don't. I think that the other types might have more of an issue with them because they can sense them and give them away. Um, so, Yvette, the Yowies, it's kind of going to be, there's a lot to the Yowies. The Yowies are, Anku says, a sacred people, actually. There are a lot of type 3s there, he said. Um, he has a huge amount of compassion for the Yowies because they have suffered spiritual crimes, is what he calls it, and this feels very ancient. Um, and he feels like there's a lot of room for healing for many of them. So I don't think they're all a lost cause. Um, and it's interesting because it feels like when I feel like he has connection there, and I also feel like they can't, it's almost like a bubble, um, a dome, a bubble, energetic something that keeps them from leaving. There's a lot to this. We really need to do a video just on Yowies, if you can bear with me, um, because it's going to leave a lot of holes in the net just to barely touch on it. Uh, if you have a specific question about them, I might be able to answer that. Um, Hi, Sharon. Sharon Guy, don't let it happen again. Thank you, Toby. Um, Understanding their language. Like in the EVPs, it's actually now, okay, it's sent through in the frequency of English intentionally in order that we can use it. We have to raise the pitch, slow the speed a little bit. But there are parts that are not meant for our ears, and they will speak in their language. It's not a lot, but infrequent pieces. Uh, Understanding it, when I have heard them in their language, it's more of a it's more of a feeling what they're saying sometimes than hearing what they're saying. When we get the translations, you can clearly hear it's English. There have been pieces of video or EVPs that have popped up through video, and I wish I could tell you how I know what they're saying. Um, I just know what they're saying. They're the way they verbalize is different, and that's the part that took a little longer to get through as far as the complexity of their sentence structure. Um, I was just playing with you, Sharon, about being late. Uh, so they use dream time. They prefer dream time for communication. I think the first 9 months we were in this every night, every night. Um, they were teaching something. It is the easiest space in order for us to uh, not hold these restrictions and judgments, and it's a much higher consciousness, a much better part of who we are. Um, I kind of had a break for 2 or 3 months, maybe, or at least I didn't bring them back into my waking state with me as far as dreams. And then the dreams started again. They're pretty good about giving pause when we need it. Zeti, they do speak light language. Uh, the language that they speak is ancient, and it it goes back so far. There's not even a root in, like a lot of these languages we have now root out of the same language, and this doesn't. Uh, it's just not the same. Uh, dogs don't. Um, can't dogs don't scare these guys, at least. Um, we had one EVP where they even mentioned Rocket and mentioned Sit Rocket, and it's funny because now when he goes out off of the side porch where we let him go once he's done doing his business, if he's staring off into the back part there, literally he sits. So I think they taught him that, to sit. Um, okay. Different colored eyes. Yes. Some are kind of amber. Some are brown, but few. Ankus are green, very green. Uh, Mamas are hazel. Uh, he says violet. Like some of them, they're almost a violet color, which would make them look, if we spotted them in a picture on camera, it would make them look dark, like a dark brown, but they're actually more of a violet. Um, mostly green or variations of green, hazel, you know. Um, yeah. All right. So you guys have been awesome. Thank you for helping us get through the camera test. I'm glad we had a chance to approach a few more questions. Beyond that, I don't know if you need anything else from me. Um, let's see, Jane. Is it common? Is it common for them to help a hiker, or is it common for them to wear adornment? Well, there you go, Lily. He answered that. That's where that came from because I wasn't sure where the violet eyes came from. These guys are great, and they actually are paying very close attention to you all. As some of the both. Okay. Um, let's see which one first here. Okay. Jane's question first. So the adornment, is that common? He says it's common in certain tribes, not all tribes. He carries a staff, and there are some that do have uh, it feels like the ones that were more connected to tribes, to specific tribes, is what he's saying. It was almost I'm seeing almost this exchange when they were working with these people originally, um, and that it was a way of being like each other. Thank you. I'm gonna keep him. Look at this hot chocolate. Thank you. Now I can come up with marshmallow mustache. So yeah, common no. As far as helping people, I feel like they would help more. Uh, they would like to help more. Uh, if they're in the right place at the right time, I feel like they would help, yes. Unfortunately, not all of these events happen right in their space. Um, it's pretty cool. Let's see. We'll do that, Renee. Hello, Lorette. Mm. So, in the last walk, the way that we're kind of seeing it, Davida is the oldest, and he is Anku's oldest. By blood right, technically it goes to Davida when Anku passes. And he and Sobe have been working closely together, and I have this feeling that Sobe will be very effectual to Davi if he does take the position, um, kind of like Anku's brother is to him. The shortened version is Jim, uh, but they're peas in a pod. And since Davi has shown up, Sobe has been working with him, helping him. They communicate. Um, as a rule, Davi's kind of quiet. He's kind of stern. And I think Sobe is maybe teaching him because Davi didn't grow up in an environment with a lot of people. So I think it's taking Davi a little time to maybe soften. Um, but they both feel very strong. And if Davi shouldn't take the position, I feel that Sobe is kind of also in line for that by blood right. They're fairly traditional, um, and I feel they're both being groomed for very specific types of work and interaction. Um, Jeff, I don't know where he went. He's not far. Hello, Hiker X. So, they are they're really stepping it up. I feel like as of the first of the year, I felt a very big difference in the way that they communicate, in the way that they are. Uh, if you get the opportunity to either go through just a piece of the video, like around the time of the orb, look in the environment. The faces are just pop, 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 and these guys feel like they're becoming more and more like closer, 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 and it's almost like every video they are just putting us a click closer uh, to gauge how much we can see, um, to measure our comfortability in that. Uncas, you know, uh, like I said, there was a whole section where they referred to subs being able to see. So they are actually monitoring all of us gently to make sure that we are, and maybe they are picking up on emails that I receive or comments, things like this. Um, I have no doubt in my mind they know exactly when and where, and if those are on the money, on the mark, they're kind of enjoying seeing that we are our eyes are adjusting. So it's okay, Darlene. Blue flames in the woods. It's emotional healing. It's an emotional purge, cleansing, um, that keeps you from experiencing nature, the naturalness of who you are. Uh, that's kind of where he's stopping and summarizing at, Elizabeth. Okay. So I should probably wrap this up. I was only going to make it a little chit chat. Um, yes, Hiker X. He was insistent on it, and actually, Ken's hand is better. He kind of described it almost like an electronic handshake. I think that when we go the next time, he's asking or requesting that he might treat it again. He might not be quite sure as to exactly how much it will take, but rather than to give him too much at one time and risk overloading his system, I feel like he just would rather do it in small doses. Um, so yeah, you guys are a godsend. If you want, you can go to buy me a coffee and buy me a coffee. And otherwise, I'm just grateful to have you guys here. I hope to have another one out in a few days. I've got to get with the program. I have been behind since the holidays, but this is fun. I'm glad you were able to see and hear everything okay. So now we know this is working. Other than that, if you're new or if you're not, like, share, and subscribe. Those likes help us a lot. If you don't like it, be honest. I mean, it is what it is. But otherwise, I will see you on the next room. And I hope you all have a great night. Peace.